Well, hello, welcome to Wise Up on Air. We have a super special hands-on edition talking about Strata. And I'm joined here today by my colleagues at Audiokinetic, Simon Ashby and Simon Pressey. Welcome to Wise Up on Air.
Hello.
Great to see you
Thanks,
today.
Damien.
So tell us a little bit about what you do at Audiokinetic to get started, and then we'll get into Strata.
I can start. I'm head of product at Audiokinetic and one of the founder as well. So I've been involved since a long time in all that, and was quite happy to devote the last few years on Strata as well, working with Simon.
And yeah, I'm relatively new to Audiokinetic. I came on board to be the product owner of Strata, and I'm very happy to be here today talking to you with Simon. It's been an idea that's been bubbling for a long time.
Definitely.
Excellent. Well, so good to have your experience and expertise here today talking about it. I know we've done a little bit of an introduction to it at the recent WISE Worldwide Online Expo, but we have a little bit more time today to kind of relax and take this as it comes and talk about some of the finer details of what Strata offers for the design workflow out there across different medias. So I'm excited to jump in. We've got a two-part program today. We're going to have a high-level overview that Simon will be presenting on, and then we'll go hands-on in Reaper with Simon.
Yes,
Yeah, see how I did that? That's pretty good. Cool. So with that, I will hand it off to you, Simon, to bring us into Strata and give us a soft introduction to that. Thanks.
Cool. So.
Okay. I'm going to fade into the background.
Yeah, so I'll do the slides portion, trying to get all the information to help kind of gathering thoughts about what Strata is, the offering, how it works, and all that. And then Simon will show really hands-on elements, like showing into the projects of some collections, interesting aspects on how you can further take that content and make it even more expressive in there. And then we'll conclude with the pricing, subscription model, and all that. So so if you've seen the Wise online event, you'll see some of these slides again. But the important portion, or the interesting portion, will be Simon showing in action all that. And this time around, we have more time as well for questions. So please, if you're watching that stream and you have questions, write these either on YouTube or Twitch. And Damien is monitoring that. He may interrupt to help asking the question because we're not seeing the questions here, but we're happy to answer them as they go. All right, so let's start with that. So Strata. So what is Strata? It's the first sound effect library that has been designed and conceived and produced in a way to be distributed and used in multitrack format. So typically libraries will offer their rendered sounds. Some other libraries will also offer construction kits, but there's only Strata that offers really the actual project that's been used to create the sound effects with all the media items, clip edits, the effects that are there on process, basically, so you can still change those effect settings, add your own effect settings, replace some of the content. Really, it's a multi-track project, so you have 100% flexibility over what you can do with that, and this is what we believe is what will become the new way of creating libraries and the best way to use libraries from now on. So we decided to produce all the content using Reaper because we needed DAW to do that. And for us, Reaper was a no-brainer for a few reasons. Well, first of all, already a few years ago when we survey Wwise users about which DAW they're using, we had more than 50% of the user using Reaper at the time. And since Reaper is really on the rising, it's probably a larger percentage today. And because of its ability to allow for scripts and actions that can be produced by the community and by us and so on, we knew that upon release of Strata, with the feedback that we're receiving, and we're already starting having quite a lot of feedback, we can now dedicate time into writing Strata-specific Reaper extension to speed up the workflow and help doing some certain task and all that. So that's really convenient. And we also released recently Rewise, which is our first Reaper extension that facilitates the export of content from Reaper into Wwise. And I've got a couple of slides to show you the user interface and the main functionalities in not so long. And Reaper is just so powerful, customizable, and as they put it on their own website, they say for the price, it's not so much. So it's really, really affordable there. So for us, it was just the best tool to use for this. So Strata is structured like most of the library out there. So it is separated into a series of collections, and collections are produced by theme. So we've got the footsteps collection and weapons and bullets and physics and all that. So this is standard, and every collection is built using the same template where you've got first your main project, and that project contains components of the collection into different sub-projects. And for Reaper, a sub-project is just another Reaper project that is embedded into a parent project, the main project in this case. So if we're looking at one of the main project, for example, and you're interested by some content in there, you double click on it and it opens the sub-project or the corresponding Reaper project there. And in this sub-project starts the actual sound design, the actual work where you've got all the details for you. So if we look closer in detail, for example, you'll see here an example of how things are configured. And that's quite consistent across most of the collections out there, if not all of the collections out there. So first of all, so we're looking at a pistol sound here. So we're seeing on screen 4 variations. So you can already associate that with creating a random container in Wwise, for example, and you would have those 4 variations. And so that's our vertical organization. And we've got on the horizontal axis the various stems or layers that comprise this sound. And so you see for a pistol sound that we're looking at, the first one is the body of that sound, and it's in yellow. And for every collection out there, your first layer on top will always be the principal sound effect, and it's always in yellow. And then the blue and the orange are details, elements that kind of participate to the main sound. So in this case, mechanism and transient and punch and tail. And the bottom one will always be the cinematic, and it's systematically muted because it's a bit over the top sometimes. So, but when you need that kind of contribution to your sound, you just unmute that layer, mix it the right way, and you go along with these things. So we try really to standardize things as much as possible. And on the right-hand side, we, in the region and markers view, that's where you can quickly navigate and filter and search for your content and go from one sound to another and for different regions and so on. And all those regions have been named using the UCS file naming convention, so the Universal Category System. And we've done that for all the source files, and all the rendered file is using the UCS naming convention. And all those regions are using the same naming convention, basically. So when you render out of a Strata project to outside, your sources are by default respecting the UCS standard. Then you can modify that to comply to your own naming convention if you want, but at least you've got a pretty good start with those names. So what is included with Strata? So first of all, there's Rewise that I was talking about. So it's a Reaper extension that simplifies the transfer of sounds to Wise. And the user interface is separated in four main components. So where on top, we are leveraging the wildcard systems from Reaper. And using the wildcard system, you can associate a specific type of wildcards to specific Wise containers and sound objects. And once you get, so in this example, we see that the region name will be the name for my random container, and then the parent name will be the blend container, and so on. So, and these structures can be saved and recalled. So if you're doing different type of export for ambience and sound effects and other content, you can recall the pattern that fits best for your elements. And so you can create presets. I'm just ahead of my slides here. And then you determine what to do when there's a transfer. So basically, if the sound was already existing or the hierarchy already exists in Wise, what do you want to do? Do you want to replace it? Do you want to abort the export? That kind of thing. And finally, at the bottom, which is quite useful, before pressing the transfer to Wise button, you're seeing already, so you're connected to Wise, and Simon will show some of that live. So you're connected to Wise, and you see where these structures will be created in your Open Wise project, and you'll see how it looks like. So if there's anything that doesn't seem right before committing to Wise, you can just change that straight in the view and then do your export. So that's something that works really well with Strata. It also comes with a series of plugins. So first of all, we're packaging the IEM plugins, and those are used mostly for the Ambience collections. We also converted all the Wise effects into VST3 effects, and they're used across the various Reaper project. And the most important effect in all that, or the one that is the most used, is Enrage from Boom library, because that plugin has been conceived and designed for sound design, basically. So it's the Boom people that were looking for a better effect plugin suite for their own usage that created that effect. And this is what we decided to include with Strata, because it's made for that, basically. So it's really just a fantastic effect processor for this context. So once you subscribe to Strata, you get access to all these VST plugins. And of course, this is the idea with distributing plugin, is that out of the box, anybody starting using Strata, we know that it works and it's going to sound exactly the same as when it's been conceived, right? But then it's up to you. If you have your own preferred plugins, you're just replacing plugins or adding further processing and so on. Again, we're in a Reaper environment. It's multi-track thing. It's up to you to customize the content to your liking and your need. So talking about production, for the initial set of collections to produce, we partner with Boom Library. And so basically we agreed in creating that together, and that's where we're at with them. And the idea was to basically stay exclusive to Boom up to the release of Strata. That was 3 weeks, almost a month ago now. But from this point in time, the idea is we can add other partners. And that's our desire at Audiokinetic, to be able to onboard other partners to complement the Boom content there. Because Boom, they're really good at a lot of things, but of course, there are certain type of sounds where other partners are more specialized or recognized in one way or another. And our desire as Audiokinetic is always to offer the best of breed in all situations as much as possible. So so that gives you an idea. So it's in two parts, the slides portion. So that's an idea for what is there and so on. We'll have Simon to present a series of examples for how it looks like, and then I'll get back to the slides soon. So Simon, are you ready?
Do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, it was an excellent introduction to Strata. It's so great to have it out there. You know, the community in the chat is vibing on the color coding side of things, like just having everything so meticulously uniform across all of the projects. I know that color is an easy access point for people to be able to get in there and do their thing.
And by the way,
Yes.
the colors are compatible with, well, I don't know if compatible is the right word, but for colorblind people, basically. So we made sure that colorblind people will distinguish the colors correctly. Same thing we've done with Wise a few years ago, and we work with Remy here, and we made sure that those colors will also be easy to distinguish for colorblind people. So
Yes,
just,
regardless of the type of color blindness that you might have, they're still recognizable.
there's still some contrast and differences, exactly. So
That's great.
all right,
Cool.
So, Simon,
Let's jump into Reaper.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll leave you all the space.
Thank you very much. So, from the beginning, our concept was really to make Reaper as easy to navigate and to be fast, to be able to get the sound that you wanted, and to have a structure that was coherent across all of the collections. So here I am in a soon-to-be released collection, which is the Modern Firearms. And I'm in the main project, and if you look to the left, you can see thank you very much. Okay. Okay. I certainly will do that. And how can I do that?
Cool. So while you're doing that,
Yeah.
Simon Ashby was talking just about how scalable Reaper was, and the community in the chat is talking about how that preview section in Rewise being extremely powerful, being able to see what is going on. And stick around, because we'll have info on our next Wise Up on Air hands-on, which will actually go deep into Rewise, which is our Reaper extension that helps facilitate the transfer of your renders from Reaper to Wise and gives you a lot of control over that. So, Simon, it looks like you're ready to roll.
I am, I believe.
I'll hand her back
So
to
I'm
you.
trying to-
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Damien. Okay, so here I am actually in the main project for Modern Firearms, which you can now see. And on the left, we have our tracks that represent each of the sub-projects within the collection. Obviously, we have a range of very commonly found modern weapons, assault rifles, pistols, carbines, shotgun, sniper rifles, and I'm going to just open up here, and you can see that we've got 4 tracks here, because we're actually making 2 sub-projects for each particular weapon, because we have a silenced version of the sub-project at the same time. So just going to filter and search and move my cursor there. And from here, we can look at the ever popular M4 assault rifle and have a look at how that's constructed. So I'm going to double click on the icon, and that was a bit quicker than normal. We jump immediately to the M4 assault rifle sub-project. And if I go here, there we go. You can see all of the tracks that make up the different layers, or as we like to think of them, strata of the sub-project. And from here we can listen to any of the sounds that make up the layers, and we can adjust those as we see fit. We've got 6 variations every shot, and then after that we have Foley for drop and pickups and reloads, so forth, for that specific M4 weapon. And so I listened to it. I think that's pretty good, but I think for my game I want to hype it up a little bit, and I want to have more dramatic tail. So let me just do a little bit of editing of the tail. Whoop. And turn it up a little bit. And let's have a look at how we're controlling the tail. And I think what I want is to have a little bit more brighter tail. Let's do that. Do you hear that, Damien? Okay. And yeah, I like that. And that's adjusted the tail for all 6 of the variations. And I've got a modified version. I don't know what's going on there. That's interesting. Anyway. Have I soloed something? I must have done.
It's such a soothing overview that you're doing, Simon. Almost feels like I'm participating in a cooking show right now. You know, let's sprinkle in a little bit of this and a little bit of spice here and there.
Well, it is. What's the nice thing about it is that it's so quick and easy to be able to get to actually customizing your sound. You're not having to spend the several hours of sifting through your library, finding all of the various bits of layers that would make up a sound, and and then adding them to tracks and so forth.
Exactly.
So it is actually quite relaxing because you're not in the same level of stress of trying to make a weapon in your 2-hour window.
Sure. And well, when you need to reach for those elements that are that lend themselves to the aesthetic of whatever you're working on, you can always reach into the sample library, sprinkle it throughout the Strata project, and away you go. Did you cover the best practices for getting started with Strata and creating duplicates of that project?
So one of the things that I've almost always do as a good practice is usually before I start to edit the project is I'll do a save as, and
gotcha.
I would for the want of an imaginative name, I'll call it Strata Demo.
Final.
More final.
Yeah. Great.
So you get to save your work as you go along, and you can always go back to your original.
Of course.
The original project.
Here's a question I'll weave in from the chat. We have Fall Reload asking about, thinking about how they would create sounds in Reaper. It'd be cool to use this Strata template with all of its colors and subfoldering. Is there a way that people could incorporate this as a template for their own design tasks? Is that something that you can imagine people leveraging?
Oh yes, we put a lot of attention into the way that we developed the kind of the structure of our projects, and if you're a subscriber, you have a copy of the project. You could remove all of the items and just have the track layout, and maybe you want to adopt a different naming convention, or you want to keep using our naming convention for example, like the layer is always starting with 0, 1 for the first layer, basic layer 1,
Yeah.
0, 2 details, and so on and so forth. These conventions are things that, so every aspect of the project has been thought of in terms of how do we make that as homogeneous across all of the collections and still be readable and relevant.
Great.
So
Yeah, that
it's very
consistency and the affordance for people to use that as a way to establish that in their across all of their sound design feels like another nice feature of what is in the
yeah.
box with Strata.
I'd say that as a learning tool, so that obviously all of the collections that we're creating are developed by expert sound designers with experience in this particular domain of sound design. So this is not the first weapon sound that the designers at Boom have put together. So you're getting a wealth of experience there. So you can look at our projects and go, oh, that's clever. I see how they're creating that weight layer punch asset and the kinds of sounds that they're using, and there's nothing stopping you from then going, oh, okay, I've got something really cool in my library that would replace that.
Right.
That I think would be really good, and I'll and it will augment that design.
Yeah.
So it's you, so using Strata as a learning tool and as a development strategy as
Yeah.
to okay, this maybe your Strata, not everything is 100% of what you want for your project, but it's maybe 80% of what you want for your project.
Great. Well, I'll hand it back over to you for the hands-on portion here, and thanks for the question in the chat. Keep them coming, and we'll weave them into the narrative as you were, Simon.
Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit of, I'm going to show you Wwise now, and I'm going to select all of the regions that make up the shot of that of this M4 rifle, and I'm going to do a little search for the composite, and I'm going to deselect those, and I'm going to export the I'm going to export only the layers of the that make up the composite sound. So that's the body, the mechanic, the transient, the punch, and the tail. And I'm going to use Wwise to do that. And if I just take you across to the Wwise image, here we are. So on the right here we've got the Wwise extension running, and I'm going to call up a preset where I'm going to generate in Wise a work unit, which I'm going to call Modern Firearms. I'm going to have it follow the project name, which is Assault Rifle Demo. I'm going to have a random container that's going to have the blend containers that's got all of the layers in it. And over here I've got, on the left of my screen, I've got my Wise project, and I'm going to select where I want that to go. I've selected the actor mixer hierarchy, and actually I'm going to just jump back to the Reaper project and do something that I would normally advise as a good practice. I'm going to create an additional name for the directory that I'm going to render into, and I'm going to call it render demo. And I'm going to jump back to the Wise transfer, and I'm going to press transfer to Wise, and we're rendering all of the files. And whilst it's doing that, oh, it's already done it. Um, I won't show you the details of it here, but you can have a look at them. I was just going to show you what occurred here in the is that all of the file names were automatically generated for the files also, and the path was generated. So we actually created some folders in the originals folder, which in the sound effects folder, where we're using the UCS category information, so we've got guns automatic as folders, as the folder structure. And then if we come back over to the Wise project, we'll see that they all of those objects have been created. And it's as easy as that. And if I if I wanted to, I could just as easily go back to the project and render out, say, just the composites, if I was so inclined, and to another kind of structure. So if I select composite, and those are the regions I was going to render out. If I was to load up another preset that I created, where I just render out the composite shots into a random container, you can see I get a very similar structure. And yes, so that's the sort of workflow for rapidly editing a project and then getting it into Wise, ready to roll. So I'm going to have a sip of water.
That did really move fast, Simon. Nice work getting it out of the Strata project in Reaper and into Wise. For folks who want to learn more about the functionality of Rewise, we've got a live stream coming up on November 17th, 3 p.m. Eastern and noon Pacific, where two of the developers here at Audiokinetic, Bernard Rodrigue and Andrew Costa, will be going hands-on with Rewise and talking about all of the functionality that's built in there to help you align your assets and your Wise hierarchy in a way that really optimizes your workflow between the DAW and Wise. So tune in for that. Are you going to dig a little deeper into what's on those different tracks for us, Simon? So I don't know that we've seen much on the Enrage side yet, and and I know that there's some cool control track functionality that you've showed in the past.
I'm going to take you through some of that in a couple of other projects, if that's okay with you. So
Take it away.
I'm going to move on to. This is our Ambience and Nature collection, which is already out, and you can still hear me over the ambience of a fine coniferous forest, Damien?
Yes, sounds great.
Okay, cool. So again, I'm in the main project here, and we've divided up this collection a little differently, where we have different areas that constitute specific types of places of ambiences. So a cave, mountains, forests, swamps, underwater, and then we have a then we have another set of sub-projects which are related to birds and animals that are found in those particular areas and objects that may or may make sound, and of course weather and snow and rain and wind that is related to those areas. And the area projects are ambisonic projects, and and from those you can derive any sort of audio format you want, from binaural, stereo, 4.0, 5.1, 7.1.2, 7.1.4, and of course ambisonic renders of first, second, and third order, and fourth, or as high as you'd like to go. And it's all set up to do that. So I'm going to take you into the area project of, I think we're going to listen, yes, let's have a listen to the swamp. So I'm now in the swamp, and we're listening to the swamp in hopefully golden stereo for this purpose, but as I'll just show you up here, the projects are set up to be able to simultaneously render into any formats you like, so binaural, stereo, quad, and we've set up 10 sort of preset rendering formats, which are the most commonly required formats. So if you're working in Dolby Atmos, for example, we're rendering 7.1.4, which you can easily fold down into 7.1.2 depending on how your mixing structure is. Okay, and Simon is telling me to hurry up, and because I can talk about this all day. So now to get to the control tracks, for example, I have a control track in this one, and I can vary the intensity of this loop. So that's the intensity of the frogs, less frogs, and more frogs. And if I want to, I can have more or less water. So I'm closer to the water, and I have less of it or more of it. And of course we have birds, and we can then be closer to the birds or further away and have more of them or less of them. So we're able to, we're using so the functionality of Reaper to control multiple aspects of multiple plugins. So we're changing the modulation rate and the modulation depth of the volume of plugins, and or the high frequency, low frequency roll off of them. And we do all of that very simply with some very few controls. You can have quite a significant impact on the way that your ambience would sound. And of course, we always have day and night cycles of all of the ambiences. So that's one aspect of the types of control that we have. And I'm going to take you through a couple of other projects. So,
well, and what I really love about that is it puts those kind of controls in people's hands to be able to create the different variations that they need for their system. So if they have,
yes, you can tailor it.
They have a very simple system, they can take just a couple of renders from that. But if their system scales, like you said, across a day-night cycle, or maybe different views or perspectives. You know, they can bounce multiple variations from that one project and really arrive at something that has a tremendous amount of dynamic detail for to meet the scale and scope of whatever environment you're trying to create with those sounds.
So what one could do, for example, if I take out, is that one could, for example, choose to render out all of the layers and then duplicate in Wise with RTPCs and LFOs the kind of behaviors that you're hearing
Sure.
here to produce a dynamic audio bed.
Great.
And
Great. And then question coming in from the chat, can the plugin parameters be assigned to controller knobs and faders? I mean,
oh yes,
it's Reaper.
oh yes,
You can do anything.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm doing everything with the mouse here so that you can see what I'm doing. But generally speaking, I have controllers, and I map my controllers to faders, and
Excellent.
I can very dynamically modify multiple things at the same time. You know, I can vary my distance and my quantity simultaneously, so I can find that balance that I want to do.
Perfect. All right, great work. Keep rolling.
Okay, yes, that will keep Simon happy because I'm right. So I want to show you a bit of creatures. Now, creatures are very challenging to design, and here is where, even for me, who I've worked on as an audio director and designer for many years, designing creatures is complicated. It's very, you think it's going to be simple, but it's hard. Because you want to have a believability and realism, and you want to have expressiveness, and finding all of those elements and pulling them together, and then actually getting them to sound as if it's actually one voice from one animal, from one creature, as opposed to the roar of a lion and the hiss of a snake, and they just don't blend together. The expertise of being able to see how designers are combining lots of different elements, and sometimes quite disparate elements that I would maybe never have thought of using, kazoos and accordions and so on and so forth, as well as, of course, animal performances. And of course, anyone who's ever tried to record animals knows that they just don't do as they're told. And that means that you can spend a lot of time with them before they'll make the sound or the range of sounds that you want to have. So the breadth and depth of the recordings that we've got for the elements of the animals that we make up is quite significant, and it's very painstakingly done with, of course, no cruelty to the animals. You have to take your time and hope that you're there at the right moment to be able to capture those things. And so we've done that, and that makes for a very a lot of great source to generate the sounds of an animal that is fictitious, in this case a dragon. And does that sound like a dragon to you? An idling dragon?
Oh yeah, kind of sounds like my cat too, but yeah, dragon.
Big cat. Okay, so as you can see, there are a lot of layers that make up this one dragon, and a lot of sounds from various animals, balloons, vultures, dry ice, metal screeches, and they're all combining to create very expressive versions of particular sounds that the dragon creature is making. And I was listening to the attacks, and I thought to myself, you know, what's happening in my game is not really working with with the type of behavior that my dragon, he's basically signaling that he's going to attack, and then he jumps right on me. And this lion growl here that carries on too long for my liking, so I'm just going to select him and shorten that up. Let me zoom in so you can get a better view of what I'm doing. And I'm gonna, yeah, I think he will sound great like this. Yes. And he's on me. Perfect. So this is something that with a conventional library would be impossible to do, or more or less impossible, because you could make it short, the whole sound shorter, but then that would mean all of the other sounds also got shorter. But very rapidly being able to make a change to make it suit the kind of behavior that my dragon has when he attacks, and he's now much more snappy dragon. Ha ha ha. Okay, so that's about as much as I'd like to show you for now in the creature. It's an incredible collection, and full of things that even a jaded old sound designer like myself can go, wow, that's really cool. I'd never thought of doing that, and it works so well, and it helps pull all of the sounds together. So that sort of expertise, learning from other designers, is great. So I'm going to show you one more, which is going to show you a bit of some of the other aspects of being able to do multiple controls, and also maybe mimic some stuff so that you can be sure that your sound design is actually working before you actually have a game that's working, which is quite often the case. You're told, oh, we're going to have a robot in this game, and he's going to look like this, and they show you a picture of it, and you go, oh, okay, well, I'll get going on that. And he's a very stupid robot, and he's probably going to get stuck. And what happens to robots that get stuck is they start to have stuttering servos. And let's take a look at this movement servo stutter sub-project that we have that perfectly covers this scenario, and is a way where you can build up a design and be sure that the sound you've designed, you can then in Wwise duplicate the similar sort of behavior that we're doing with the effects plugins, which is controlling an LFO, and to very intensity, and let me just show you how that's working. So currently I've got an envelope that's pre-drawn, and as it goes up and down, you can see the modulation rate is being modified. And if I wanted to, I could just take that out and doing nothing, and then I could introduce some stuttering. And that verifies to me that, oh, my sound design is going to work when I finally get the control back from the engine that's telling me that the robot is against the wall and he's trying to get away from it because he's a silly robot. And as you can see, if I pull up these plugins, you can see that that's actually performing similar operations with varying degrees of intensity on multiple tracks. And I'm doing that all with only one envelope to control them all. Yes, so I think that concludes the hands-on part of the presentation. I'll be happy to show you any other things if people have questions that they'd like to have answers, and I'll hand you back to Simon, and he can tell you more.
Cool, but we're
about it.
looking at Enrage right now, and Simon mentioned this
Haha.
up front as part of the suite of plugins that is distributed with the Strata projects across the IEM plugins, the Wwise plugins that duplicate our runtime plugins with VST equivalents for use in DAWs, and then Enrage. So we're looking at Enrage here, and it is a masterclass in options. You see different,
It's
you have different chains, you have different devices that you can drop in and out, and then as you were just illustrating, the modulation coming straight off of an envelope that you can use to drive different properties of it.
yes, it's an incredible plugin. It was really designed by the Boom guys because they were working with multiple different plugins to try and produce the sounds that they wanted. And they said, well, we need a plugin that can do gain, that can do delay, that can do distortion, that can do dynamics, can do filtering, we can change imaging, we can apply modulation, pitch, impulse response, reverb, you name it, and we want to put that in any particular order that we want. So the potential of this plugin is limitless.
Yeah, and we're seeing it across
and
all the different tracks throughout the project. So again, it's only the IEM, the Wwise, and Enrage throughout Strata, again, bringing that consistency. But within those packages, like you're saying, there's just a ton of depth there. And another piece that I'll circle back to, you were saying, you know, the educational opportunity here of understanding a sound designer's workflow and, you know, peeking under the hood. You know, for any of these tracks that are using Enrage or any of the other effects, you can just mute or unmute that to hear the, you know, what the difference is, and then you can dig in deeper to see what that plugin chain is like, and maybe even adopt it for your own samples as well.
Yes, of course, you can save the presets and use them in your own in your own projects. You can see the kinds of things that the designers are doing, which are very complicated effects processing chains, and of course we also have the Wwise effects, which are you're all probably familiar with, and you can do things like with the Wwise effects where you design some sort of I'm doing this in Reaper in real time and I'm rendering it, but maybe I'll actually do that effect at runtime and have some control over it because I've got parameters so maybe my gun sounds are need to be more compressed at certain portions of the game, and I can experiment with doing that inside of the DAW, and then I can replicate that inside of Wwise immediately.
Yeah, prototype in the DAW, you know, bypass it for your render, and then bring it to runtime with the same DSP that you know and love in Wwise. So great to have that flexibility. Nice.
And I can't say enough good things about the about Enrage, and we are currently working on an update to Enrage, which will of course be included with the Strata library included in your subscription. And a lot of the improvements and enhancements of Enrage have come about because of the work we've been doing with Strata, and and of course the Boom designers, no sooner had they started building this, had they built the Strata libraries, than the Dynamedium, which is part of Boom, started using those in order as part of their sound designing process. So that means that we have an ongoing development of the way that the projects are being produced and made, and that includes the plugins that we will bring into Strata as we develop them as necessary. And the IEM plugins are used extensively in the Ambience projects for doing all of the ambisonic encoding, because they really are excellent plugins. They work exceedingly well, and I was just going to the level of flexibility that they allow you in terms of the way that you create your ambisonic mixing is super flexible. And I should say that our source files, when we're in the ambiences, most of our bed recordings are made with ORTF 3D, that H-channel recordings, which is a very high fidelity H-channel recording, sort of 4 microphones for the upper part and 4 for the lower part, and they make for very flexible tracks. And as we do the up encoding into high order ambisonics, which the mixing projects are in, that makes those sound even more spacious and better positioned than you get from discrete outputs. Yes, so that concludes my section, which probably ran hugely over. I hope it was good.
Do you want to?
Yeah, you. Yes, go back to it. And I think are you seeing the hands-on presentation? Yes,
Yeah,
you are.
yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Cool. Good. And there's one last question in the chat that I just saw about having Enrage ported to Wise. So no. So this is something we discussed. Tried to see if Enrage could be ported as a runtime plugin, and no, the way it's created and so on, it will be too much work and so on. So it's not there. What we want to do in the future, though, don't know which version of Wise, but ideally, eventually we would support VST effects as part of Wise to be rendered before being played in a runtime context. So, so if we do that, of course, at that point, people will be able to use Enrage or any other VST effects straight from Wise at that point. So, but we're not there just yet.
We are working on it.
Well, not actively on that, but that's where that's
yeah.
what we want to support soon. Okay, so so let's continue with the presentation. So let's look at the content itself and the release schedule. So working with Boom, so as I was saying before, Boom is the first partner to join Strata, and we work together. And we agreed on a first set of 37 collections to produce, and those will all be available by fall 2023. and so you can see these collections here on screen, separated in theme like ambience, character, combat, and so on. And just to give you an idea for how many sounds we get per collection in these. So some are like normal size, smaller size, and some are gigantic collections out of that. And by the way, just a reminder, when we say a sound in Strata, a sound for us mean, a region that contains from 5 to sometimes 20 different tracks in there, right? With various media items. So one sound is actually tons of sounds in itself. So you need to multiply these numbers by maybe an average of 10 maybe to get the number of sources used overall in there. So that's what will be available soon. So right now, what have we released in October 12th? That was our launch date. We've got these 14 collections available. So aircraft, some ambience collection, creatures, UI sounds. And then what we want to do is, not what we want to do, how we organize things is really to be able to release new collections every month from now on. So by the end of this month, in November, we're going to have Animal Domestics and Animal Wild and Doors. And we're skipping December because of the holidays and all of that. But back in January, then we go with Modern Firearms and Bullets. And then in February, there's a set of Ambience collection with medieval, fantasy, and Doom. And as we go from March to sometime in fall, you can see all the collections that will be added soon. So in average, it's 2 or 3 new collections a month, sometime even 4. Physics, there's only 1 collection that month, but just look at the number of sounds. This is in itself almost the content of 20 collections in itself. The production on physics started 2 years ago, just to give you an idea for how much recordings and editing and all that is part of it.
Can you clarify what a physics collection means? Because it may or may not be obvious to.
Yeah, well, it's all the impact sounds on various textures, various sizes of objects, and so on. And you started looking into these already, I think. Right?
Oh yes. Well, yes. This is a big task. Creating a library this comprehensive, and so there's a lot of recording to do, a lot of sourcing of where and when you can actually do those recordings, because you need to be able to create a lot of it. You have to create a lot of impacts, and sometimes you need quite a lot of space to do that, and so you're limited to being able to do it when it's outside and good weather and things like that. Yes, it's nearly 2 years that we've been working on the recordings of that and the assembly of the projects, and then how do we make those into Reaper projects that allow for a lot of variation and scalability, so you can really tailor that impact to match the objects that are in your game.
Yeah. So some people were wondering, so what's the value of Strata? Is it something that worth investing in? I guess just producing the physics collection, if you were to do that on your own, well, it's a couple of years of work. So put whatever salary per hour that you want to.
With several designers.
Exactly. So it's a 6-digit type of budget just for that collection that's been put in production. So yeah, it gives you an idea for the attention and the amount of love that there is into that. So well, talking about dollar figures and value. So the business model for Strata is per seat subscription model, and it's a 3-year subscription model where that provide you access to all the collections already available and all the new collections that are released each month. As long as you're subscribed, basically, you get all the new content on a steady pace. And in terms of pricing, so now is the right moment to really consider subscribing, and you'll understand soon why. So what we know is that the value, once we're going to have the 37 collection, is that the price of Strata will be at roughly 1,500 per user per year, so by fall next year. But we're starting that thing. It's a new product, and not all the collections are available right now. So there's an early adopter discount, and we're still at 495 this month. And we're still debating, are we augmenting the price in December or January? We'll see. There's a meeting booked next week about that. But the idea is, as we are adding collections, the discounts will become smaller and smaller, up to the point where we will reach the full value at 1,500 per year. So that's how we present that early adopter discount. So, and again, it's a 3-year subscription. So the price you're seeing, so if you are to subscribe today, you guarantee your price for the next 3 years. So it's going to be 495 this year and year 2 and 3, basically. If you wait 5 months before subscribing, the price will be higher, but at the moment of subscription, that price will be guaranteed for the 3 installments, basically. So that's for the subscription price. So let's make a little recap here. So what do you have? So you have a sound effects library that is designed and produced and to multi-track format. And why? Because it's just the most flexible way to redesign sounds and make it your own, and adjust it to really fit your need for the context of your game or film or whatever you're working on. So, and this is just how Audiokinetic things, right? We're always in our DNA is how can we provide as much control as possible in the hands of the end users, so that you can be creative and really fine-tune anything you do to exactly what you're imagining and aiming at. And that comes with a series of VST effects. So Enrage, we extensively looked at it. We took all the included effects from Wwise and ported into VST3 and the IEM plugins that we're using in the Ambience collection. And this is in itself, it's a package of 20 plugins that is packaged there. So if you don't have IEM already, those are really good effects to look at and start using. So there's our first Reaper extension with Rewise that facilitates the export of content from Reaper to Wwise, and we are already starting working on Strata-specific Reaper extension to speed up some of the workflow. And again, that's thanks to you, thanks to people that started using it and providing us their feedback and suggestions for improvements. So we already have a list of 4 or 5 extensions that we will start rolling based on that feedback. So again, everything we've done with Strata so far has been, let's try to put that in the hands of the people as soon as possible. And from there, let's listen to what we can improve and where we should dedicate more attention, basically, to make this thing alive and this thing evolving and growing in the best direction possible. And the short-term plan is to get 37 collections. We already agree with Boom to do another set of 20-something later. And we are soon starting discussing with other providers, because we want to complement Strata with different providers of sound effects to provide the best content to you on the other side. So stay tuned for that. As soon as we're going to have something to announce, we'll definitely mention it. Now is the best moment in terms of licensing or subscribing to Strata. And this is a gigantic discount there. And Audiokinetic is not a company that is used to discount. So really now is the best moment if you're interested in Strata. I don't think we will do any of the, the flash sales and the thing that other companies are doing, like the Halloween discount and Christmas discount, and basically there's always a discount. That's not how we operate in general. So that's why I'm saying if you consider Strata, you might you might want to consider that right now. Um, by the way, so if you want to put your hands on it, and I answer another question in the chat about having a project template from Strata with the color coding and things and so on. So one way we don't have this template ready package to be distributed, but if you download the free sample collection, well, here's your template, right? Just remove the content and you can save a template out of that.
And we do. We're using the SWS extension of Reaper, and we do include in the Strata download the access to the color swatch that we're using, so you can load that into SWS colors.
True.
True. Like that. If you just want the color.
If it's just the color. So.
And that will be free.
So yeah, definitely. So the free sample collection, what we've done is from the 14 collection, we extracted elements from 8 of these collections, and it's not the full collection. It's really just snapshots of these, and that's it. You're gonna have all the Strata VST effects there. The only exception is, well, no, it's not an exception, but the Enrage version of it is a read-only version of Enrage, so you cannot change the settings, but you can render and use the Enrage, engine processing there, or bypass it and remove it and with something else if you want. Everything you do with the free sample collection can be used for your commercial project, so there's no problem there. And this is just a particularity, but we're using the same subscription flow for the free collection as for the paid one. So literally, you will be subscribing to a $0 subscription of Strata that will terminate in 3 years from now. So you're going to have to resubscribe if you want to keep using the free sample collection. And so how it works, just guiding you rapidly on that. So if you're interested, so go on the product page of Audiokinetic. You'll see the Strata section, and there's a Get Free Sample button there. And that will lead you to, well, basically to sign in or log in to the website. And from there...
If you haven't already.
Exactly. And so you see it's a $0 transaction. We're not asking for credit cards and all that. We're just using the same flow. You're going to have some agreements to agree to, the EULA and so on. I suggest that you subscribe to the email newsletter, because that's how you'll be informed to what's coming up and the new releases and all that. And you will you will download the various VST effects from your profile, basically. So here you see I'm logged in. So you go on my profile, and there's a new section now, the subscription here, where you click on that, and this is how you get access to your the various VST effects. But for the collections themselves, this is now in the Audiokinetic launcher. So again, if you have an old version, you need to update your launcher so that the Strata tab can appear. Just there, make sure that you're logged in so that we know that you subscribe to the free collection, and it's where you're going to retrieve that collection. And if you're subscribed to the full collection, you'll see all the collections appearing there, and that's your download manager, basically, at that point. And every month when there are new collections, this is where you will retrieve those collections and be able to download them. So that's it. That's in a nutshell Strata, and we really encourage you to open it up, see what's in there, and there is a lot of content at your disposal. So I hope that covers most of your questions, but maybe there are other questions. So I don't know, Damien, are you still monitoring the chat? Anything?
I'm here, and the people, they want the colors, all of them. And so
Again?
I think we have a big fan out there. So definitely folks will be looking forward to grabbing that free sample pack, putting their hands on it, getting access to those plugins, and being able to work in the Strata project and kind of uncover all of the cool things in there. It was a great
Some-
overview. Go ahead.
So something I forgot to mention, if you're interested by Rewise, you will be able to access it
There was a
through.
blog.
Well,
Already.
there's a blog article, so
You
there.
can find the link in the blog.
But if you're used to Reaper and all that, and you most certainly have Repack already installed on your setup, and it's through Repack that you're gonna get Rewise, basically. So that's how you get that. If you're a programmer or you like scripting and so on, the source code is on GitHub as well. And this is what we want to do as well for the other extension we will code in the future. We want to put that code accessible to people so that you can customize it and adjust it to really pinpoint your workflow and making it the best tool possible for you.
Great. We dropped the Rewise blog link into the chat. And
Great.
for folks who are still with us, we've got a hands-on with Rewise coming up next week on the 17th at 3 p.m. Eastern and noon Pacific. We're going to go hands-on with that extension that takes assets as they're set up in your Reaper projects in Strata and transfers them over to Wise with
It will
intelligence.
It will work with any Reaper project.
Mhm.
Of course, the Strata projects are very optimally set up to allow a lot of flexibility for commonly used best practice strategies for generating hierarchies within Wise, I would say.
Yeah.
So
Out of the box, it's just
optimize that.
packed with a ton of intelligence there and ready to fuel your Wise projects. So, and we're going to go deeper hands-on with it to see how you can modify it to fit your project's needs next week with a couple of developers here at Audiokinetic. Cool. Thank you to you both. It's great to be able to talk more about Strata out there in the community as people begin getting their hands on it and putting it into their projects. A question there. Someone gets the free version of Strata and starts working on sounds in that and exports that into a game that they're working on. What's the licensing for those sounds?
So as soon as you accept the terms of the EULA and the Strata agreement and all that, it gives you the right to use Strata and customize the content and so on, export that and use it in your project, being a film, a trailer, or a game. So all that is covered basically.
Great.
So
At no cost.
no, exactly. It's free and so on. And that was important because there's no, like, people are busy. So it's really rare that we have the luxury of time of doing something that you cannot use for your actual work. So
Yeah.
so for us, it was important that the legal was written in a way where, this is the whole idea. Use it for real and you'll see the value as you're using it. And so, yeah, so it's a lot.
Great. And maybe for some folks who've already licensed Boom libraries, like how different is this from what they would have in their collection already?
You want to go for it?
Yeah, sure. I can answer that one. So we have recorded some new assets, particularly for the library, for Strata, for these collections, because Boom are relentless perfectionists, and they listened to their library and they went, you know what? We want better consistency, and we know how to record these better. So we're going to re-record. For example, the gun foley, all the gun foley was re-recorded because they had a better way of being able to, better methods to enhance it and make it be better. Some of it is built from existing Boom libraries, which you may already have licenses to. But what you don't have, even if you have a render, what do they call, those packs? The boom libraries when you get the elements.
The construction kits.
Construction kits. The construction kits are renders, but they're already processed renders, so they're not necessarily the raw files that are now being used in the Strata collection. And also, I would say that the with Strata, the designers have got a bit more flexibility in that when you're designing a library and you're printing the final result, the tendency is, well, I'm going to make this be the biggest, most bombastic gun sound ever, because you want it to be bigger and better than anything else out there. But here with Strata, we have that. We give you the capability to go as big and bombastic as you want, but we've designed so we're somewhere in the middle of where that guns. It still sounds big and powerful, but it's
not overwhelming.
It's not
by default.
overwhelmingly colored, shall we say? So so the results of the Strata renders are quite. They're similar to the kinds of results you might have had in a boom library, but they are going to be different, and in some, well, and of course, as far as boom are concerned, they're better because they like to see that they're moving forward, and it's like a second go, and the designer has the opportunity to revisit how they designed the sound and use different elements and sounds from different libraries which maybe weren't available when they first created that. So there is so whilst you would have if you're already owning boom libraries, you've probably got some of the collections that made up some of the sounds, but you probably don't have all of them, because we've got sounds in the Strata collection from across all of Boom's libraries, and also new stuff that's been recorded for them.
Yeah.
So I've got a long answer.
But even if you have Boom Ultimate, or I'm not sure of their name, where you own everything, so I've done the experiment for myself of starting, because we do have, for example, the standard Boom weapon collection here with the elements, and I've done the experiment of, okay, let's try to rebuild one pistol sound. So I had my reference from Strata, so 15 or 16 tracks. So I went, okay, let's create the tracks, let's put the colors, let's find exactly the same clip that they use from the main library, and let's trim that, and then the second one, let's align it in time so it works, let's name the track, let's the relative volume, and it was like 30 minutes later, and I only had completed 2 or 3 of the colored layers, and I was not even started on the effects. And I just opened as a reference one of the Enrage plugin, and there was like 7 boxes, and each of those, modulators had different settings, and it was sounding so different from the original source and how they're processed in Strata with Enrage, that I needed to mute, or not mute, but bypass the effect, just to find the same, audio files. So it's a lot of work. So just recreating one pistol sound, we're not even talking of 6 variations of that pistol sound, that is quite systematic in Strata, is taking forever. And what you don't have in the original Boom content is all the effect processing. Like, they really shape all their clips in a way that is novel, that you don't have even if you own the full package. So and my idea was to complete one sound and show that, and after 30 minutes, or if not more, I was kind of tired of that. I said, okay, that proved the point for me. I'm seeing the value even more than I was like seeing it before. So yeah, and currently Boom is the only partner, because that was how we decided to put that. There's there was a lot of risk for Boom to do that, right? They just deciding to say, okay, we're going there, but will it disrupt our own market? And at first, when you create something that doesn't exist, there's always you start something, you have to redo a lot of things, and the naming convention, this and that, and so that's why they were asking. So can we be exclusive so that when it goes out, we have a head start compared to the other partners that will just follow and repeat the same formula, basically. So I think it's really fair to, and we said yes to that. But the idea again is to bring other partners soon. So and ideally from other providers that might be
Have
complementing
different specialties.
different specialties, and something that maybe not everybody owns necessarily, and that will bring even more value over time. So yeah, so it's been a really great adventure so far, and it's quite an enlightening one in many areas in sound design.
Yeah, and so we'll drop a link to the behind the scenes video where we actually talk about that process of creation with the folks at Boom. And there's a comment from the chat, happy to pay someone else to have done all of this and keep my sanity without the monotony of those tasks, right? So so that's a huge value proposition that Strata brings, and having Boom as that first partner paves the way for other partners to fill the gaps in these different collections. Find those golden opportunities to service the sound communities with unique sounds with a level of detail that puts control into the creative's hands while removing that stamping license plate side.
The cost to produce recordings, the time and effort, 2 years of work, that you probably don't have 2 years spare. I know I don't. And dealing with all of the is like you plan to go out and record in nature, but nature has it's decided that it's going to rain today
For the next 5 days.
for the next 5 days.
Yeah.
Which,
or whatever.
if you're making a rain library, maybe that's you're perfect, right?
Yes, but
If that wasn't your plan, though, I think, yeah.
if you wanted to record, light, gentle breeze in the forest with the birds singing, that was doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So,
Great. Excellent. Well, great to have the community along for this conversation. Thanks for joining us today in the chat. Tune in next week. We're going to go hands-on with Wwise. And Simon, thanks so much for giving us this introduction and hands-on peek into Strata.
Cool. Thanks, Damien, for the animation, keeping up with the questions and all that.
You bet.
As always.
You
It's
bet.
been a pleasure.
Cool.
And if you want to reach out to us, if you have other questions, of course, we're happy to engage and discuss.
then drop questions into the Q&A of the website, of Audiokinetic's website. We'll be happy to answer them there, because hopefully we can distribute the information.
Yeah. And 2 weeks ago, we were at GameSoundCon, and some people were saying, well, I'd like to introduce Strata to all the sound designers in my company. Can we organize something? Of course, yes. So if you'd like a discussion, we'll probably be both of us there, and we can go deep into presenting that thing. Because it's something new, right? So people are still asking questions and so on, and we're happy to drive you through everything that's there and answer all the questions that you may have. So reach out to us. We're always happy to engage, for sure.
Very.
Yeah.
Awesome. Wise Up on Air. Love it.
Cool. Thanks, Damien.
Take care, and we'll see you on the next one. All right.
Definitely. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.